In the late 18th and early 19th centuries, South Africa found itself at the crossroads of transformation. But have you ever stopped to wonder who was the legendary figure behind this revolutionary period? Who established the invincible Zulu Empire and revolutionized warfare in South Africa? It was none other than the iconic Shaka Zulu. A warrior, a visionary, a game changer, and the founding father of the Zulu nation who reshaped an entire nation. This transformative period witnessed the rise of a powerful leader like Shaka Zulu, who revolutionized warfare and reshaped societies. His fierce army under his strong leadership destroyed anyone who came in their way. No wonder why his name has become synonymous with battle. But was Shaka Zulu a villain or a hero? How did this strategic genius and his unrivaled leadership give rise to an empire? A lot has been said about Shaka Zulu, and his life is full of colorful and exaggerated stories. In today's video, we are going to sort out all the facts from fiction and delve into his complete life story. Join us on a journey through time to uncover the untold story and impact of Shaka Zulu, a man whose legacy still echoes in global history. Get ready, as we are about to witness the rise, a series of conquests and enduring influence of a true African icon. Revolution in the Bantu region. In the heart of a dynamic era, smaller chiefdoms gave way to mighty centralist kingdoms. People's lives shifted dramatically, some as refugees seeking refuge, others as conquerors asserting their strength. Amidst it all, a legendary figure emerged, Shaka Zulu, shaping the course of African history. But what do we call this era of transformation? Scholars have coined it the Mfecane, a term that echoes the idea of hammering or crushing. As we look back, can we unravel the complexities of this time and find insights that still resonate in our world today? Early life and challenging times. The story of Shaka Zulu unfolds in the lands of the Nguni people, which lies between the mighty Drakensberg Mountains and the vast expanse of the Indian Ocean. This very region is what we now call KwaZulu-Natal, a place that translates to the country of the Zulu. During the late 18th century, no one could have envisaged that a remarkable tale was about to unfold and legend would be born who would change the course of history. In the year 1787, Shaka Zulu came into this world during the lunar month of Untulikazi, in the region that now encompasses present-day Melmoth, situated in the KwaZulu-Natal province of southern Africa. He was born to Senzangakona, the chieftain of the insignificant chiefdom called Zulu, and Nandi, an orphaned princess from the neighboring Langeni clan, who were entangled in a relationship that defied the Zulu customs. The young boy's life was deeply affected by the contentious circumstances of his birth. Since his birth, Shaka Zulu's life was marked with relentless challenges and hardship. Most of the accounts of Shaka's early life are gleaned from oral sources and traditions, making it challenging to establish a precise and accurate account of his formative years. Lore has it that he was born while his parents were not yet formally married, according to customary practices of the Zulu Empire. According to the Zulu customs, their union was considered improper and illicit. As a result, their relationship cast a shadow over young Shaka. Another tradition reveals that he was born in Langeni territory at his uncle's homestead, as Nandi sought to distance herself from her relationship with Senzangakona. Senzangakona, as the heir apparent to his father King Zulu, found himself entangled in a complicated situation when it came to the circumstances surrounding Nandi's pregnancy. But why did he refuse to accept Zulu as his son? In those times, such a transgression, impregnating a girl before marriage, carried with it the weight of great embarrassment and dire consequences. His fear of his father's wrath was profound, and rightfully so. The potential repercussions could be severe, including the loss of his rightful claim to the throne. Senzangakona's actions not only risked his personal standing, but also threatened the future of his lineage. Just then, the story took a serious turn when Senzangakona made a rather shocking claim that Nandi was not pregnant. He claimed that she was suffering from an intestinal ailment caused by an Ishaka beetle. This ailment showed some apparent symptoms in a woman like swelling in the belly. Senzangakona's dubious claims and initial reluctance to acknowledge Shaka as his son raised more questions. However, he eventually accepted Nandi as his third wife. This led to Shaka spending his early years at his father's Esiklebeni homestead near present-day Babanango, within the Emakosini, or burial place of the kings, a hallowed locality where Senzangakona's ancestors had been chiefs for generations. But the society saw this marriage as an act of violation of fair traditions. All this while, little Shaka had to bear the stigma of their transgression. As if the burden of his parents' mistake wasn't enough, Shaka's early years were marked by further challenges. The relationship between Nandi and Senzangakona was marred by unhappiness and discord. But why did these lovebirds and their relationship fall apart? Did they realize the consequences of their union after the birth of Zulu? It isn't quite clear who was at fault, but the famous historian, Dr. Maxwell Zakiele Shamase, made some interesting remarks that shed light on the relationship between Nandi and Senzangakona. Nandi had a spirited and tempestuous nature. Thus, she often displayed her commanding demeanor and dictated terms to those around her. Her rather bossy personality clashed with the more serene and traditional customs of the time, making her relationship with Senzangakona, Shaka's father, a turbulent one. Their union was far from harmonious. The mounting tension reached its breaking point, and Senzangakona could no longer bear the strife. In a decisive act, Shaka's father expelled both Nandi and their young son, Shaka, from his household. At the tender age of 6, little Shaka had to face the storm of his parents' separation and loss of a father. The mother and child found themselves lost. Nandi and her young son kept wandering until they found a refuge in the Umhlathuza Valley, under the protection of the Langeni people. Nandi took her son with her back to the Langeni clan, where she herself had experienced a tumultuous upbringing. Shaka's early life was no different. He experienced a fatherless boyhood, which was spent among people who held his mother in disdain. The Langeni community, it seemed, was unforgiving when it came to Nandi's perceived transgressions. They perceived her as a characterless woman who transgressed her limits. With the passage of time, Shaka's formative years unfolded against adverse circumstances, where he had to endure cruelty and humiliation inflicted upon him by his Langeni peers. In 1802, the situation worsened as the Langeni expelled Nandi from their community, leaving her desperate for shelter once again. Salvation came in the form of the Dletsheni, a sub-clan of the powerful Mthethwa. They offered refuge to Nandi and her young son, giving them a new home and a chance at a fresh start. But did Shaka's struggles come to an end? Not yet. Even within the sanctuary of the Mthethwa community, Shaka's path was trodden with challenges. The challenges he faced from both the Langeni and Mthethwa boys, in time, served as a crucible in which his resilience and strength were forged. It is apparent that the early years of Shaka Zulu were filled with familial tensions and societal pressures. these early trials were but the prelude to the remarkable and transformative journey that lay ahead for Shaka Zulu, which ultimately set him up for his transformation into one of Africa's most formidable leaders and military innovators. No one could have even imagined that a young boy who was being bullied and disgraced would become an iconic leader and rule the entire empire. Brilliance as a warrior. The storms of life may batter a man, but they also provide the opportunity for him to grow and become unbreakable. It is in the face of difficult circumstances that a man discovers his untapped potential. These words are particularly true for Shaka Zulu. As he made his maiden foray into adulthood, he set out on a path of discovery. He began to unearth a reservoir of his diverse talents and abilities. On the exterior, he possessed an imposing stature and formidable physical strength. His innate prowess and audacity naturally propelled him into a position of influence among his peers. But there was more to his influential personality. Beneath this imposing exterior, there was a burning ambition for power smoldered, silently fueling his aspirations. When Shaka Zulu was around the age of 23, his destiny took an intriguing turn. He was drafted into one of the esteemed Mthethwa regiments, an experience that would prove to be profoundly transformative. Amidst the ranks of the Izikwi regiment, he discovered a sense of camaraderie that had eluded him in his earlier years. The battlefield, with its chaos and challenges, served as a grand stage upon which he could showcase his exceptional talents and unyielding courage. Shaka's acts of unparalleled valor did not go unnoticed. They drew the keen and curious gaze of his superior officials. As he soared higher and higher through the ranks, he swiftly became one of Dingiswayo's most esteemed commanders. Over the following 6 years, Shaka's brilliance on the battlefield shone brightly, solidifying his reputation as a formidable warrior within the expansive Mthethwa Empire. But how did he transition from the battlefield to chieftainship? Rise to power and conflict with Zwaid. In an interesting twist and turn of events, Shaka learned of his father's demise in 1816. Following his death, the chieftainship passed to his half-brother Sigujana. Sugujanan assumed authority, but his reign proved to be a short-lived chapter in Zulu history. It was marred by internal strife and conflict within the royal family. Unfortunately, this period of turmoil came to a sudden and violent end for Sigujana. The circumstances surrounding his death remain shrouded in mystery and add to the suspense. Some historical accounts suggest that his half-brother, Shaka, may have masterminded an assassination plot. Others contend that Shaka himself took a more direct role, personally ending Sigujana's life through a fatal stabbing. We don't know if it is true, but no substantial evidence has been found to verify these claims. Whether Sigujana was assassinated by his own enemies or killed by Shaka to gain leadership remains unknown. Next in line was Dingiswayo, but he was reluctant to assume authority. Did he fear meeting the same consequences as Sigujana? Whatever his reason was, he never assumed authority. He stepped back, took significant steps to mentor Shaka, and assisted him to gain authority. Shaka Zulu easily came to power with a rather bloodless coup. He finally ascended to a position of leadership within the Zulu kingdom. It is quite remarkable that Shaka's rise to power found a degree of acceptance among the Zulu people. This marked the beginning of a new era in the Zulu chiefdom. The transition of authority, facilitated by Dingiswayo's support, reshaped the course of history for the Zulu, setting the stage for Shaka's remarkable leadership. But life was never calm for Shaka Zulu. Just 2 years after taking charge as the new chieftain, destiny took yet another turn for Shaka Zulu. In 1818, a powerful king of the Ndwandwe clan called Zwaid rose to power. Zwede's burning ambition and desire to expand the influence of the Nxumalo nation put him in direct competition with Dingiswayo, the Mthethwa king. This rivalry had far-reaching consequences for the region. Zwide was all set to expand his territory, and in the events that ensued, he almost crushed the power of Mthethwa kingdom by killing their king, Dingiswayo. When Zwide executed Dingiswayo, he found himself in a direct conflict with Shaka Zulu. One might be wondering, what was Shaka Zulu's role when Zwide was after the Mthethwa kingdom? Did he abandon his mentor and leave the kingdom and its people? There are intriguing theories about these events. The diary of Henry Francis Finn, a contemporary observer of the events, reveals that Dingiswayo's demise, which occurred around 1818, was attributed to Shaka's treacherous actions. He blames Shaka Zulu and his shrewd tactics to gain power, but there is concrete evidence to prove these claims. Despite the negative claims against Shaka, it is believed he was loyal to his mentor and his kingdom. During Dingiswayo's final battle, Shaka's arrival at the scene was notably delayed. He could not reach the battlefield until after his overlord had been captured. This seemingly calculated absence allowed Shaka to preserve the strength of his own forces and prepare them for a revenge against Zwide. Subsequently, it was Zwide who perpetrated the murder of Dingiswayo. With the Mthethwa state left leaderless and in disarray, Shaka seized the opportunity and swiftly assumed leadership. Shaka was finally in an intense mode. He took action and reformed the scattered forces of Mthethwa and gathered other regional tribes to challenge Zwide and his forces. He skillfully combined diplomacy and patronage to extend his influence and secure the loyalty of neighboring chieftains. Shaka knew that he had not defeated some of these chieftains, including Zilandlo of the Mkize, Jobe of the Sithola, and Mathubane of the Thuli, in battle by the Zulu forces. Chances were these chiefs could rebel against them and team up with Zwide. It could be the end of Zulu and Mthethwa, but as if destiny had a plan for Shaka Zulu and a decision was finally reached. He recognized that it wasn't always necessary to engage in armed conflict. Sometimes forging bonds through mutual benefit was more strategic. Thus, through a system of patronage and reward, Shaka effectively established alliances and allegiance with these chieftains. He finally won them all using his subtle tactics and diplomacy, and all the chiefs chose peace and unity. These alliances strengthened Shaka's position and expanded the sphere of influence of the Zulu kingdom. It is apparent that nothing could stand in the way of Shaka Zulu and his unbeatable Zulu empire. Next was Shaka's mission to win the Kwabe chieftain. His masterstroke with the Kwabe would also forever stand as a testament to his diplomatic finesse, was with the ruling Kwabe. The Kwabe began to reinterpret their genealogies, emphasizing a close historical connection between the Kwabe and the Zulu as part of the larger Nguni group. This revisionist genealogy created a historical kinship between the two groups, further enhancing the unity of the region. Now Shaka Zulu had the support of all his regional tribes. It was time for another mission, FHE's most crucial mission thus far. It was finally time to avenge Dingiswayo's death and take charge of the Mthethwa forces. Shaka restructured the organization of his warriors, forming them into disciplined units that fought in tight formation while wielding large cowhide shields. He also introduced an innovative way of fighting by using a new weapon called Ikwa, a short stabbing spear. But despite his excellent strategies, Shaka Zulu and his armed forces were heavily outnumbered by the enemies. But Shaka Zulu was not going to let his empire crumble. He was here for revenge from his enemies. So he fiercely fought back in the battle called the Battle of Kokli Hill. In the deadly battle that ensued, Shaka Zulu employed masterful strategies and tactics to secure victory over the Ndwandwe invaders, led by Nomalanjana, Zwede's eldest son and heir. Shaka deployed forces along the White Umfolozi River's fords to delay the Ndwandwe army's advance while the river was high. He also moved non-combatants and cattle into hiding in the Nkandla forest. He also stationed most of his troops on Gokokli Hill, concealing reserves and supplies in a depression at the top. This gave the impression of a smaller Zulu force. Using a clever decoy operation and waiting for the right moment, Shaka sprang his trap, employing his elite reserves and a flanking tactic called Impondo Zenkomo to envelop and demoralize the Ndwandwe forces. The battle resulted in heavy Ndwandwe casualties. The Ndwandwe suffered approximately 7,500 casualties, while the Zulus endured around 2,000 casualties, but Shaka's tactics and strategy prevailed. Shaka was successfully able to inflict crushing defeat on Zwide and his forces. His brilliance in strategy and tactics secured victory but only temporarily stalled the Ndwandwe threat, necessitating further preparations to face a looming second invasion. During the first battle, historians made an incredibly intriguing analysis which sheds light on the ruthless character of Shaka Zulu, which was going to play an important role in the years to come. During one encounter, he killed Zwide's mother, Ntombazi, who was a Sangoma, or traditional healer. Shaka's revenge was horrifying. He confined Ntombazi in a house and placed jackals or hyenas inside. These animals devoured her, and at dawn, Shaka set fire to the house, reducing it to ashes. This gruesome act reflected a dark and ruthless aspect of his character, highlighting the brutality and violence that characterized his rule. His legacy is one of both military prowess and extreme cruelty, with lasting consequences for the region and its people. Despite this gruesome revenge, Shaka didn't stop. His pursuit to find Zwide continued. Their final meeting near Pongola was a momentous event. This dramatic showdown had far-reaching implications for the future of the Zulu and Ndwandwe kingdoms, making it a significant chapter in the history of southern Africa. In a pivotal and resounding battle at the confluence of the Malathus River and the Mvuzane stream, the Zulu forces, led by Shaka, secured a decisive victory over their adversaries. This two-day running battle showcased the military prowess and strategic brilliance of the Zulu army. Following this victory, Shaka didn't rest on his laurels. Instead, he swiftly led a fresh reserve force on a remarkable 110 kilometers, 70 miles march to the royal kraal of Zwide, the ruler of the Ndwandwe. There, Shaka's forces inflicted further devastation, effectively dismantling the seat of Zwide's power. Zwide himself managed to escape, along with only a small group of followers. He would later meet his demise under mysterious circumstances after running afoul of a chieftain named Mjanji, who ruled a Babalu clan. Notably, Zwide's general, Soshangane, of the Shangaan, took a different path. He moved north towards what is now Mozambique, where he continued to inflict damage on less resistant foes and capitalize on slaving opportunities. This activity even forced Portuguese traders to pay tribute. However, Shaka's challenges were not yet over. Now it was Zwede's son who was back in Shaka's life. In 1826, he had to confront Zwede's son, Sikunyane, demonstrating that the struggle for dominance and control in the region persisted. Shaka's dominance. After these battles, Shaka's supremacy over the region of present-day KwaZulu-Natal became virtually unchallenged. Over a relatively short 10-year period following his final defeat of the Ntwandwe, Shaka's Zulu regiments embarked on continuous campaigns, steadily expanding their conquests into ever more distant territories. As they did so, the lands close to their home base were systematically stripped of cattle, a primary resource. When a chieftain resisted Shaka's expansion, it was met with overwhelming force and either conquered, destroyed, or in cases such as the Thembu and Chunu, the inhabitants were driven off as landless refugees. Shaka's rule reinforced the principles of submission and subjugation. Those chiefdoms that chose to submit were allowed to retain local administration, typically under the leadership of the reigning chief or another member of the traditional ruling family, appointed by Shaka himself. Under his leadership, the Zulu kingdom became a dominant force in the region, and his approach to governance and conquest left a lasting impact on the political landscape of the area. Shaka's leadership during this period was marked by a relentless pursuit of power and control, solidifying his legacy as a significant figure in the history of Southern Africa. Relationships and marriage. What was next for Shaka after all the raging wars and turmoil of his life? What was Shaka Zulu's take on marriage and relationships? Was he ever in love? Did he ever get married? It is queer to notice Shaka himself avoided producing a legitimate heir and remained unmarried. He had an extremely negative attitude towards marriage. Many claim that it was deeply influenced by his upbringing and early life experiences. The way he witnessed his mother, Nandi, being treated, her mistreatment and rejection, likely left a lasting impression on Shaka and contributed to his skepticism about traditional marriage customs. Shaka's childhood was also marked by adversity. Growing up outside his clan and without the presence of his father made him vulnerable to bullying and isolation. These early experiences may have fostered a sense of mistrust and aversion towards traditional social structures, including marriage. Shaka's rise to power involved political maneuvering and the establishment of alliances. Marrying into a particular clan or tribe might have entangled him in political complications or conflicts of interest. Many sources also believe that since he was deeply committed to military campaigns and expanding his influence, it may have left little time or priority for marriage and family. Therefore, any women found pregnant by him were subjected to execution. Consequently, Shaka's households were not dominated by wives, but by stern senior women from the royal family. Not only did Shaka avoid producing or engaging himself in relationships, he also introduced changes to Zulu society, including reforms in military tactics, social structure, and marriage customs. He imposed restrictions on marriage, favoring celibacy among his warriors to enhance their dedication to the military and loyalty to him as their leader. Social and military reforms. Now, after a series of military conquests, Shaka shifted his focus towards transformation of social and political structures. Once he assumed power, Shaka initiated a comprehensive restructuring of his people's military forces, drawing from the ideas and experiences he had gained while serving as a warrior in Dingiswayo's army. He made sure that young boys aged 6 and older played an essential role in Shaka's military force, serving as apprentice warriors known as UDB. He gave these young warriors specific responsibilities within the military structure. They were tasked with carrying rations, supplies such as cooking utensils and sleeping mats, and extra weapons until they were old enough to join the main ranks of the Zulu army. While some argue that this support role was primarily associated with very light forces used for extracting tribute in the form of cattle and slaves from neighboring groups, the concept of light forces may be somewhat misleading. In practice, Zulu raiding parties, also known as Ibutho Lempi, were highly mobile and operated with minimal equipment. They relied on driving cattle as provisions during their missions, rather than being burdened with heavy weapons and extensive supply packs. This approach allowed them to maintain their agility and speed during raids and campaigns. Shaka Zulu's introduction to new military strategies, which prioritized mobility and adaptability, and the involvement of young apprentice warriors in carrying supplies and assisting with logistics, contributed to the effectiveness of their operations. He entirely transformed and modified traditional weapon, the assegai. Shaka recognized that the conventional long-handled assegai, designed for long-distance throwing, was unsuitable for the kind of tightly coordinated combat he envisioned. Instead, he conceptualized a strategy where warriors would retain their assegais, opting not to hurl them from afar. Instead, they would advance closely toward the enemy while sheltered behind an interlocking wall of shields. This approach would afford them a distinct advantage and the potential for complete victory. Once he had demonstrated the effectiveness of these new tactics, Shaka equipped his warriors with short-handled stabbing spears. He then rigorously trained them to advance as a unified formation, using their body-length cowhide shields to create an almost impenetrable barricade against any projectiles aimed at them. Shaka Zulu also instilled discipline among his forces. Through rigorous training and unwavering discipline, Shaka meticulously developed his military forces, ultimately transforming them into a fearsome presence throughout the land. His approach to military preparation was both innovative and demanding. He also implemented a unique practice to enhance the mobility of his warriors. He forbade them from wearing sandals and instead toughened their feet by subjecting them to relentless running over rough, thorny terrain. This grueling training regimen not only conditioned their bodies but also made them more agile and adaptable in the field of battle. It is obvious that Shaka's leadership showed an unyielding commitment to victory. His war cry, "Victory or death," became a rallying call that epitomized the unwavering determination of his forces. He maintained his impi, or fighting force, on continuous military campaigns until he believed they had earned the privilege to wear the headring, known as isikoko, symbolizing manhood and honor. Only after this achievement were Shaka's warriors formally disbanded and permitted to marry. This approach not only instilled a profound sense of discipline and cohesion within his forces, but also created a powerful and motivated army that was, indeed, the terror of the land. Shaka's military organization extended to the recruitment and training of young men who were carefully integrated into a system of age regiments known as amabuto. This process played a significant role in fostering a shared sense of identity and unity among the youth of the kingdom. Shaka made sure that young men from various sections of the kingdom were selected and placed into appropriate age regiments. These amabuto were distinct groups, each with its own unique name, and they were housed in specific royal households. In turn, these households served dual functions as both military communities and preservers of their traditional roles. The leader also provided military settlement with a herd of royal cattle. These cattle served as a vital resource for the young warriors, supplying them with meat for sustenance. Additionally, the hides of these cattle were utilized to craft the shields of the warriors, which were instrumental in their defense on the battlefield. Notably, efforts were made to select cattle with distinct skin colorations for each amabuto, further emphasizing the identity and cohesion of these regiments. Shaka Zulu made sure that the system of age regiments not only facilitated the military training and organization of Shaka's forces, but also fostered a strong sense of camaraderie and shared purpose among the young men who would go on to become formidable Zulu warriors. In Zulu's kingdom, young women were also gathered and assembled at the military settlements, where they held an official status as wards of the king. These women were organized into female counterparts of the male age regiments known as amabuto. While at the military settlements, they participated in ceremonial dancing and displays, which played a role in the cultural and social fabric of the Zulu society. Since Zulu had a negative perception towards marriage, it was highly regulated. When a male member of the amabuto was granted permission to marry, a female amabuto would be disbanded, and the women within it would be designated as brides for the warriors. However, until this formal marriage process took place, sexual intercourse between members of the male and female age regiments was strictly forbidden, and any transgressions were met with severe consequences, often resulting in death as punishment. This strict regulation of marriage and sexual activity within the context of the age, regiments not only served to maintain social order, but also reflected the central role of tradition, discipline, and respect for authority within Shaka's kingdom. It was a fundamental aspect of the broader cultural and social structure that defined life within the Zulu society during Shaka's reign. Within the Zulu military settlements, a distinctive social structure emerged. Each settlement included a segment of royal women led by formidable figures, often one of Shaka's aunts. In Shaka's absence, administrative authority was jointly exercised by the female ruler of the settlement and an induna, typically a favored individual in the king's eyes. This unique combination of power dynamics within the households, driven by strong royal women and trusted indunas, contributed to the development of a robust sense of identity throughout the Zulu kingdom. Despite this centralization of power, traditional leaders of subject chiefdoms retained local administrative authority. When the Amabuto were disbanded, the young men would return to their communities of origin. Consequently, the sense of identity within these subject chiefdoms persisted, and it remained a significant factor in the later political landscape of the Zulu kingdom. The military indunas, or captains, held special positions of trust in the king's eyes. They received substantial cattle herds from the king and used this wealth to amass large followings. Over time, this led to the emergence of powerful figures in subsequent reigns, who possessed strong local power bases built upon royal appointments and favors. These dynamics played a pivotal role in shaping the politics and power structure of the Zulu kingdom in later years. Shaka Zulu also made another notable move by forming a new capital. Shaka's initial capital was situated along the banks of the Modi, a small tributary of the Mkhumbani River, located in the Babanango district. This settlement earned the name KwaBulawayo, which can be translated as "at the place of the murder." As the Zulu kingdom expanded under Shaka's rule, he eventually constructed a much larger and more prominent KwaBulawayo. This new royal household consisted of approximately 1,400 huts and was established in the Malathus Valley, located approximately 27 kilometers from the present-day town of Eshowe. This grander KwaBulawayo served as the central administrative and political hub of the burgeoning Zulu kingdom, reflecting the extent of Shaka's influence and the growth of his realm during his reign. All these reforms ensured that Zulu Empire was invincible and stayed ahead of its time by all means. Innovator or borrower. After introducing all these revolutionary social reforms and reforms in the military sector which made Zulu Empire a force to reckon, many people questioned if Shaka Zulu was an innovator or borrower. They challenged his popular depiction as a brilliant innovator and claimed that he borrowed and imitated indigenous methods, customs, and ruler lineages that were already in existence. Many critics also claimed that Shaka's achievements may have been built upon existing practices and knowledge within the region. Instead of being a radical innovator, he may have adapted and refined strategies, tactics, and traditions that were already in use among indigenous peoples. However, the attention given to Shaka's line and his relatively short-lived rule is disproportionate when compared to other longer-established ruler lineages and leaders in the region. They argue that Shaka's impact should be viewed within the broader context of historical continuity and the contributions of other rulers. Such perspectives highlight the complexity of Shaka's legacy and the ongoing debate among scholars about the extent of his innovations versus his adaptation of existing practices. but there were many zealous supporters of Shaka who continued to lend him support during and after his death. Shaka's triumphs did not erase the memories of his better-born rivals, and that the rise of states resembling the Zulu-type states may have been a more complex process than a simple imitation of Shaka's model. Shaka's relatively short lineage is in contrast with the long pedigrees of his most significant opponents, particularly the coalition led by Zwide, who was Shaka's formidable adversary. The founders of states described as Zulu-type states, including the Ndebele, Gasa, Ngoni, and Swazi, had close associations with Zwide. Instead of suggesting that they imitated Shaka, it is proposed that Shaka may have modeled his state on theirs. These Zulu-type states were associated with ancient families, and it is plausible that states of this nature existed in the more distant past. The idea is that these states were part of a larger grouping referred to as Mo. This perspective challenges the notion that Shaka's innovations were entirely unique. It underscores the need to consider the broader historical context and interconnectedness of various indigenous communities and their political developments. Global developments during Shaka's reign. As Zulu Empire made progress, so did the whole world, including Britain. During the end of his reign, several significant events were unfolding globally. We all know that the late 18th and early 19th centuries marked the height of the Industrial Revolution in Britain. Innovations in manufacturing, transportation, and agriculture transformed the country into an industrial powerhouse. This period saw the growth of factories, the expansion of railways, and the mechanization of various industries. In 1807, Britain took a significant step towards the abolition of the transatlantic slave trade by passing the Abolition of the Slave Trade Act. This marked the beginning of efforts to dismantle the slave trade, a practice that had deeply impacted Africa. The early 19th century witnessed British imperial expansion. British colonies continued to grow, and the British Empire extended its influence in India, Australia, and various parts of Africa, including the Cape Colony, which would later become South Africa. While Shaka's influence and activities primarily centered on Southern Africa, the world around him was undergoing significant transformations and conflicts that would have far-reaching consequences. It is interesting to note that in his later years, Shaka himself allowed the British to establish cordial relations with his nation, which was yet to leave an indelible mark in the history. Shaka didn't know the British were not mere traders. They had some bigger plans. So was it the British traders who ended Shaka's reign, or was it his own people who conspired and rebelled against him? Europeans in the Zulu territory. When his reign was approaching its end, during the mid-1820s, Shaka occasionally granted permission for Europeans to enter Zulu territory, albeit on rare occasions. He even allowed Henry Francis Finn to enter his territory, who provided crucial medical treatment to the king following an assassination attempt by a rival tribe member who had concealed himself within a crowd. In 1825, when Lieutenant James King visited him, Shaka demonstrated a diplomatic approach by sending a goodwill delegation to Major J. Cloete, the Cape government representative at Port Elizabeth. Shaka formally interacted with the white traders during this period and showed a keen interest in establishing positive relations with them. He accorded the white traders with a most favored treatment, ceded them land, and even allowed them to establish a settlement at Port Natal. But Shaka's curiosity extended beyond trade. He was particularly interested in the technological advancements and innovations that the Europeans represented. He was eager to learn more about their military tactics and strategies, and was intrigued by the foreign culture they brought with them. Additionally, Shaka recognized the potential advantages that trade with the Europeans could offer him and his kingdom. In 1826, to be closer to the settlers at Port Natal and facilitate interactions, Shaka constructed a substantial military barracks at Dukuza, meaning the place where one gets lost. This new royal residence was located approximately 80 kilometers further south of his previous capital, Bulawayo, and occupied the site of the present-day town of Stanga. But did British and Zulu Empire get into conflict? Shaka made sure that there were no major conflicts between the white settlers and the Zulus. Shaka was cautious not to provoke confrontations with the military forces of the Cape colonial government. Individuals who had the opportunity to interact with Shaka during this period, such as H.F. Finn, described him as intelligent and occasionally amiable. There were instances that clearly demonstrated Shaka's capacity for generosity and his ability to engage diplomatically with those from different cultural backgrounds. These interactions underscored Shaka's pragmatic approach to foreign relations and his interest in the potential benefits that these interactions could bring to his kingdom. Shaka's willingness to allow Europeans into the Zulu kingdom showed the value he placed on individuals who had skills and knowledge that could benefit him and his kingdom. During their interactions, Shaka had the opportunity to witness several demonstrations of European technology and knowledge. However, he remained deeply rooted in his belief in the superiority of the Zulu way of life and culture. Despite glimpses of European innovations, he maintained that the Zulu methods and traditions were superior to those of the foreigners. He was determined to preserve and promote the customs and values of his people, even in the face of increasing contact with the outside world. Shaka's selective engagement with Europeans exemplifies his strategic and pragmatic approach to leadership, as he sought to harness external resources and expertise while remaining fiercely committed to upholding the integrity of Zulu society and its traditions. Could he foresee the potential of Europeans to expand and colonize his empire? Death and legacy. Before the Zulu Empire could crumble and fall at the hands of British, the humble yet challenging beginnings of Shaka, his rise and expansion met a tragic end. His life took a tragic turn when his mother died in October 1827. It triggered Shaka, and bedlam broke loose due to Shaka's erratic behavior during this period. Once the mighty king was now lost in an abyss of grief and loss, he imposed a series of extreme mourning practices following his mother's death. The chaos were unimaginable. He ordered that no crops be planted during the year of mourning, prohibited the use of milk, which was a staple of the Zulu diet at the time, and issued a decree that any pregnant woman, along with her husband, be put to death. In addition to these harsh measures, at least 7,000 people were executed because they were deemed insufficiently grief-stricken. These executions extended beyond humans. Cows were also slaughtered so that their calves would experience the loss of a mother. This period of mourning and Shaka's increasingly disturbing and psychotic behavior significantly contributed to the discontent among his people. Thus, Shaka accumulated numerous enemies within his own ranks, which ultimately contributed to his swift downfall. His demise came relatively shortly after the passing of his mother. It is unfortunate yet shocking that it was not his rivals outside the territory or British who took advantage of this opportunity. It was Shaka's own people were behind his execution. Yes, it was Shaka's half-brothers, Dingaan and Mlangana, who rebelled and plotted against him. They had several unsuccessful attempts to assassinate him before finally succeeding. Their efforts may have been aided by elements from the Mpondo group and disaffected members of the Eziendane community. In 1828, Shaka met his demise at the hands of 3 assassins. While the exact date remains uncertain, September is the most commonly cited month. At the time of the assassination, almost all available Zulu manpower had been dispatched on a large-scale military campaign to the north. This strategic move left the royal kraal critically vulnerable in terms of security, providing the conspirators with the very opportunity they needed. The conspirators were Shaka's half-brothers, Dingane and Malangana, along with an Induna, high-ranking official, named Mbopa. Mbopa used his shrewd tactics to create a diversion, while Dingane and Malangana delivered the fatal blows to Shaka. After Shaka's murder, his lifeless body was disposed of by his assassins, who placed it in an empty grain pit. This pit was subsequently filled with stones and mud to hide the egregious crime. In his final moments, as King Shaka's life was fading, he addressed his brother Dingaan, saying, "Hey brother, you kill me thinking you will rule, but the swallows will do that." By referring to the swallows, Shaka was alluding to the white people, as they constructed their houses from mud, similar to swallows building nests. This statement evidently infuriated his assailants, who then pounced upon him and carried out the fatal stabbing. According to accounts from members of his family, Shaka's last words were, "Are you stabbing me, kings of the earth? You will come to an end through killing one another." These poignant words underscored the violence and infighting that would follow his death and the tumultuous period that the Zulu kingdom would subsequently undergo. The exact location of Shaka's burial remains unknown, although a monument has been erected at one of the alleged sites. However, historian Donald Morris suggests that the actual burial site is situated somewhere along Cooper Street in the village of Stanga, South Africa, although this assertion remains subject to historical debate and investigation. End of Zulu Empire. It is quite intriguing to notice how Shaka Zulu had already predicted the end of the Zulu Empire while leaving the world. Following his assassination, power struggles ensued among his successors, leading to a period of instability within the Zulu kingdom. Ultimately, the Zulu Empire faced significant challenges from external forces, which contributed to its downfall. After Shaka's death, his half-brother Dingane seized power and became the next Zulu king. Dingane's reign was marked by internal conflicts, including a power struggle with his younger brother, Mpande. In 1838, Mpande successfully overthrew Dingane with the assistance of Boer settlers and claimed the Zulu throne. Under Mpande's rule, the Zulu kingdom experienced a brief period of stability. However, tensions escalated when Mpande's sons, Cetshwayo and Mbuyazi, vied for succession. The British, who had expanded their influence in the region, saw an opportunity to exploit these divisions to their advantage. By 1878, the British issued an ultimatum to Cetshwayo, demanding that he disband his army and accept British authority. When Cetshwayo refused, the Anglo-Zulu War broke out in 1879. Despite initial Zulu victories at Isandlwana and Rorke's Drift, the British ultimately prevailed due to their superior firepower and military strategies. The British captured Cetshwayo and exiled him to Cape Town. They dismantled the Zulu military system, annexed Zulu land as a British colony, and divided it into smaller administrative regions. The Zulu monarchy was abolished, and the Zulu people were subjected to British colonial rule. The fall of the Zulu Empire had a profound impact on the Zulu people and their way of life. The loss of independence and the imposition of British rule disrupted traditional systems of governance, land ownership, and cultural practices. Zulu society underwent significant changes as the British implemented their policies, including the introduction of Christianity, Western education, and the transformation of the economic structure. This event can be seen as a fulfillment of Shaka's prediction in a somewhat ironic way. Shaka had foreseen the arrival of the swallows, referring to the white settlers and their impact on the region. The beginning of European colonialism in the area ultimately led to the disintegration of the Zulu Empire. But you should take note that Shaka's prediction was likely more symbolic than literal, as he couldn't have foreseen the specific events that would transpire. Nonetheless, the arrival of European settlers and the subsequent colonization did have a profound and, in many ways, devastating impact on the Zulu people and their empire, much as Shaka had alluded to. Impact of Shaka Zulu's military conquests and Mekfenai. At the time of his death, Shaka commanded authority over a vast realm, ruling approximately 250,000 individuals and maintaining a formidable military force of more than 50,000 warriors. It is inevitable that his influence was much greater than one can imagine, but his influence also had a dark side. His 10-year reign etched a grim tale marked by significant loss of life, primarily attributed to the turmoil and chaos his Zulu armies sowed among neighboring tribes. The precise death toll remains shrouded in historical ambiguity and mystery. Amidst the direct casualties of Zulu expansion and conflicts lay further unquantifiable deaths, as tribes embarked on mass migrations to escape the encroaching shadow of Shaka's armies. These migrations were driven by the upheaval and violence accompanying the expansion of the Zulu kingdom. The human cost of Shaka's reign and the ensuing migrations paints a haunting portrait of the region's demographic and social landscape, leaving a complex legacy that we continue to dissect and dispute. From the abyss of immense bloodshed and warfare emerged the concept of the Mifekane, also known as the Difakane, a theory which posits that the aggressive expansion of Shaka's armies triggered a violent chain reaction across southern Africa. Displaced tribes fighting for survival turned upon neighboring groups in a relentless cycle of conflict and conquest. However, it's imperative to approach this theory with caution, recognizing its potential to oversimplify the intricate historical context of the time. It is true Shaka Zulu had a terrifying reign. The terror instilled by Shaka's military prowess prompted several leaders, including notable figures like Zwangendaba, Mzilikazi, and Shoshangane, to embark on northward migrations, penetrating deep into the heart of the African interior. In their wake, they left a trail of warfare and destruction before establishing their own kingdoms. Estimates suggest that during Shaka's reign, the cumulative death toll arising from his wars exceeded 1 million lives. His military campaigns, waged between 1818 and 1828, played a central role in a series of forced migrations that carried different names in various corners of southern Africa, such as the Mfecane, Difakane, Lifakane, or Fetkane. This period of history, fraught with conflict and upheaval, forms a chilling chapter in the annals of the region, a testament to the profound impact of one man's rule on the lives of countless others. As the migrations unfolded, they were marked by waves of desperate refugees fleeing from the brutal assaults unleashed by Shaka's forces. Initially, it was the Hlubi and Ngwane clans seeking refuge, followed by the Manatees and Matabele under the leadership of Mzilikazi. These groups embarked on a perilous journey, crossing the formidable Drakensberg Mountains to the west. In their wake, they left a trail of destruction, displacing established chiefdoms and sowing chaos. The consequences were dire. Famine gripped the land, as populations were decimated and herds and crops were obliterated across the vast expanse stretching from the Limpopo River to the Gariep River, Orange River. This period of upheaval and conflict reshaped the very fabric of society. Old chiefdoms vanished, replaced by emerging ones forged in the crucible of adversity. The impact of Shaka's wars and the subsequent migrations cast an indelible imprint on the social, political, and demographic landscape of southern Africa during this tumultuous era. Estimates of the death toll vary widely, a haunting specter that ranges from 1 million to 2 million people. Yet, these numbers remain shrouded in debate and controversy. But amid this unfolding tragedy, we must ponder: did these European claims truly reflect the complex reality of the time? Was Shaka's expansion truly the sole catalyst for this devastation? Were there other forces at play? In the 1820s, as Europeans began their inexorable expansion into Zulu lands and the surrounding territories known as Natal, they wove tales of Shaka's alleged atrocities into their narrative to justify their own actions. European encroachment, the insidious slave trade, and broader regional expansion were also unfolding in southern Africa during this tumultuous period. Europeans often depicted themselves as saviors, rescuing native peoples from upheavals caused by their own leaders. In the case of the Zulus, this narrative grew into a detailed web of stories and arguments, all centered around Shaka and the events he supposedly initiated, known as the Mefficane. But was this portrayal accurate, or did it serve a different purpose altogether? Despite a myriad of historical interpretation, an eminent scholar, Julian Cobbing, intriguingly suggests that the portrayal of Shaka as the solitary architect of devastation may have been influenced by apartheid-era historians whose agenda was tainted by the desire to justify racist policies. It's a sobering reminder that the historical record can be marred by the agendas of those who wielded the pen. Scholars, while acknowledging the potential distortion of history by apartheid proponents and unscrupulous European traders, tread carefully on the path of complete revisionism. They point to accounts of cannibalism, raiding, village burning, and mass slaughter rooted in the documented experiences of black victims and refugees, reminding us that these horrors had witnesses. Modern archaeology, exemplified by the discovery of the underground village of Lepalong, adds another layer to this intricate narrative, offering tangible evidence of the disruption and violence that swept the region during Shaka's era. The picture that emerges is one of a complex historical period, shaped by various contributing factors. To understand its causes and consequences, one must navigate a mosaic of perspectives and sources. William Rubenstein also makes a keen observation about the distortion of pre-literate societies, due in part to Western guilt over colonialism and a desire to avoid racist narratives. It underscores the critical issue of oversimplified or biased portrayals that can obscure the nuanced realities of societies like Shaka's. Enter South African historian Dan Wiley, whose skepticism regarding the depiction of Shaka as a pathological destroyer of worlds brings further depth to the narrative. Wiley challenges us to consider a systematic effort to distort Shaka's life and image, beginning with the earliest European visitors to his kingdom. This distortion, he suggests, may spring from various wellsprings, including colonial biases and the need to shoehorn historical narratives into preconceived frameworks. Wiley's perspective serves as an important reminder of the importance of critical scrutiny in evaluating historical accounts, recognizing the potential biases and distortions that can emanate from diverse sources and perspectives. It beckons us to embrace a more nuanced understanding of figures like Shaka and the multifaceted historical contexts in which they dwelled. In doing so, we peer beyond the surface and embark on a quest for a deeper, more truthful comprehension of the past. Perception in the Zulu culture. Shaka's legacy continues to captivate not only the contemporary Zulu people but also individuals worldwide who have encountered the tribe and its rich history. In recent times, there has been a notable tendency to lionize Shaka, elevating him to a legendary status. This admiration for Shaka has been further amplified by popular films and other forms of media that have contributed to his enduring appeal and fascination. Traditional aspects of Zulu culture also hold Shaka in high esteem, and he is remembered with reverence. A praise song, a prominent poetic form in Africa, serves as a testament to the enduring admiration for the deceased monarch. This poetic form is not limited to honoring spirits alone. It extends to celebrating remarkable individuals, animals, plants, and even towns, emphasizing the multifaceted nature of African culture and its rich traditions. Shaka's remarkable achievements and influence continue to be a source of inspiration and admiration for people, both within and beyond the Zulu community, highlighting his enduring impact on history and contemporary perceptions. Shaka's legacy in African oral tradition is complex and multifaceted, with both positive and negative perspectives found within Zulu sources. While he is celebrated as a significant and influential figure, there are also critical narratives and negative images that persist in Zulu oral history. One particularly notable episode that reflects the ambivalence surrounding Shaka is the response to his mother Nandi's death. Upon her passing, Shaka issued a series of extreme edicts, including mass executions, the prohibition of planting crops or using milk, and the killing of all pregnant women and their husbands. This period of devastation caused significant suffering among the Zulu people. Within this context, a courageous individual named Gala emerged as a notable figure. Gala stood up to Shaka and expressed his objections to these harsh measures. He pointed out that Nandi's death was not an isolated event in Zululand's history. Gala's candidness and willingness to speak truth to power caught Shaka off guard. In response, the Zulu king reportedly rescinded the destructive edicts and rewarded Gala with a gift of cattle. This narrative illustrates the complexity of Shaka's character and rule. He is neither solely a heroic nation builder nor an unequivocal tyrant in African oral tradition. Instead, Shaka is portrayed with nuance, embodying both admirable qualities and actions, as well as instances of cruelty and harsh governance. It serves as a reminder that historical truth is often shaped by the lens of those who recount it, and that a comprehensive understanding of history requires an appreciation of its complexities and contradictions. In the popular culture, Shaka Zulu has made a significant impact on popular culture through various mediums. Everyone is naturally drawn to stories that provide explanations for society's problems, often assigning blame to a convenient demonic figure. Similarly, we admire heroic individuals who serve as role models due to their extraordinary power. When facts are scarce, storytellers craft characters to suit their narratives. Shaka is a prime example. Colonizers depicted him as a monster to suit their political goals, while Zulu nationalists highlighted his military brilliance for their cause. This resulted in literary creations like Mazisi Kunani's epic poem, Emperor Shaka the Great, and Leopold Sedar Senghor's play, Chaka. In these works, Shaka transformed into a symbol of resistance to colonialism across Africa and throughout history. The 1986 SABC TV miniseries, Shaka Zulu, starred Henry Sele in the titular role, bringing Shaka's story to television audiences. Shaka has been a playable leader in all 6 games of the Civilization series, allowing gamers to experience his leadership in a strategic context. Shaka's legacy is set to continue with the upcoming Showtime series, King Shaka, directed and executive produced by Antoine Fuqua. Another South African TV show, Shaka Ilembe, on Mzansi Magic, has contributed to keeping his legacy alive and relevant in contemporary culture. These portrayals across different media forms underline the enduring fascination with Shaka's life and the historical significance of the Zulu kingdom, ensuring his legacy remains impactful in popular culture. Modern Zulu. Despite the fall of the Zulu Empire, Shaka Zulu's attempts did not entirely go in vain. The area that once constituted the powerful Zulu kingdom has transformed over the years, but it is still alive today. Today, it is a significant part of South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province, one of the nation's 9 provinces. This region has seen remarkable changes and developments. The landscape is now dotted with wildlife reserves, characterized by the iconic savanna-covered hills that attract tourists from around the world. One notable aspect of KwaZulu-Natal's present-day identity is its strong focus on tourism, with the area being a popular destination for visitors who want to experience its natural beauty and diverse wildlife. Another remarkable conservation initiative in the area is the Black Rhino Range Expansion Project, overseen by the WWF. This project aims to reintroduce black rhinoceroses to the region and increase their population. The Zululand Rhino Reserve, ZRR, plays a crucial role in this effort. Interestingly, the Zulu royal family continues to hold a significant role in the region, fulfilling important ceremonial duties that connect with the area's rich cultural heritage and history. This intersection of conservation, culture, and heritage underscores the dynamic nature of the present-day KwaZulu-Natal and its commitment to preserving its natural wonders and traditions. Final thoughts. What relevance does Shaka Zulu and his Zulu empire hold for us today? Is he truly a villain, a hero, or something more complex? Shaka's story, filled with military genius, cultural transformation, and controversy, forces us to grapple with timeless questions about leadership, power, and the consequences of one's actions. Shaka is a significant figure in the history of Southern Africa, known for his military innovations, state-building efforts, and the disruptions caused by his expansionist campaigns. His influence on Zulu culture and identity is profound, with his memory celebrated as a symbol of Zulu pride and unity, reflected in traditions like praise songs and folklore. However, Shaka's legacy is far from straightforward, as opinions about him vary widely. While some view him as a visionary leader who brought positive changes to his society, others criticize him for the violence and suffering associated with his military campaigns. Even today, historians are analyzing his life and reign and examining his achievements, tactics, and the consequences of his actions, including the impact of the Mifakeni on neighboring communities. Shaka's story has also been represented in literature, film, and popular culture, shaping public perceptions and contributing to ongoing discussions about his character. His legacy remains relevant in discussions about African history, nation building, and leadership, serving as a reminder of the complexities surrounding historical figures and the importance of considering multiple perspectives. The question of whether Shaka is a villain or a hero is subjective, with assessments often depending on one's perspective, historical context, and the specific aspects of his rule under consideration. Ultimately, the debate over Shaka's character sparks a new conversation on the need for critical historical analysis and an acknowledgement of the multifaceted nature of historical figures. As we examine his legacy, we must ask ourselves, how do we assess historical figures in the context of their time? Can we separate the positive from the negative, or do they coexist in a complex tapestry of history? And in our own era, where leadership and power are hotly debated topics, what lessons can we draw from Shaka's life and reign? Shaka Zulu's story transcends time, serving as a lens through which we explore the intricate interplay of history, memory, and the enduring debate over his true nature. Here comes an end to Shaka Zulu's journey. His life story and leadership is a tale of controversy, but his impact is profound and still persists. What do you think about Shaka Zulu and his life? Do you think he was a villain, or has he been misrepresented all along? If you know anything interesting and insightful about Shaka Zulu's revolutionary journey, let us know. We would love to hear your valuable thoughts on our video in the comment section below. On that note, we are wrapping up today's video. If you enjoyed today's journey back in time, give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and family who would enjoy this interesting historical saga. Smash the subscribe button to keep an eye on exciting content. We will see you soon with another exciting video.